particulars associated with that after the fact. But let's go ahead and get this show started. Our next presenter is Sara Schultz, OPL at NWS Detroit. I like the enthusiasm there. And you're going to talk to us about the AROS system. So go right ahead.
Yes, I am. Can anybody hear me first?
We got you loud and clear.
Okay.
Like the theme you got there with lightning and thunder, by the way.
Yes, thank you. It's actually a giant sticker, so it's pretty cool. Allow. Okay. Get back here. Okay, can everybody see that?
Looks good.
Okay, awesome. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name's Sara. I'm the Opal at the Detroit office, and I get to talk about AROS, the Automated Radio Sound Observing System. And so you can see the picture of the AROS and then our office in the background there. It's a very beautiful site. I love it. So AROS, basically, we were the 21st AROS site to get installed. It was developed by Sala, or however you want to say that, by Sala. So the 21st AROS system to go in. We're actually the last one of this particular system. They now have developed a newer one. It did come about rather quickly. I wasn't even expecting, to get it at our site. And, Vicella had a hard stop at the end of the year. And so, ours, logistically, our site was the easiest, to get it in. So you can see where they are across the U.S. They're in Hawaii, Alaska, West Coast. Closest to Detroit is the Texas one. We're the first AROS in Central Region, which is exciting. We do use the RS-41 radio sounds, and I'll get into that in a little bit. And it has a capacity to perform 24 consecutive synoptic soundings. And I apologize if I speak fast. I have a lot to go through, so I'll be talking very quickly. So the construction phase, you can see we had a nice retaining wall put in, which is cool. Some of you that haven't been to our site, we are actually up on a hill is where we release balloons from. And I will say, I started my career at Davenport, and when I came to Detroit, it was a lot easier to release a balloon off a hill than it is on flatter land. I didn't have to run as far. Here's some more pictures of the installation phase. So they brought AROS in on, in two sections, as you can see here. And then hopefully this video plays. So this is the system actually releasing the balloon. Yes, it beeps to make everybody aware what's going on. Once we press the grant button, it's off within 30 seconds. It'll release the balloon. So it's pretty cool stuff. Here's a look inside AROS. On the left-hand side, you can see inside actual AROS itself. And then we also have a cabinet in there where we can store the supplies. And the main perk that I love is it's heated and air conditioned. It's great and to actually load the balloons and the radio sounds in there, to do almost a full tray, it takes a good few hours. So it's nice. I'm nice and comfy in there, and I can turn on my music and just, jam away while loading the trays. It's pretty cool. So the RS-41 radio sound, here you can see a picture on the left-hand side. This was a significant difference from the ones we used before. We were on the RS system, which used the RS-92 radio sounds before, and we had to use a parachute with that. But now with the AROS radio sound, it's a lot lighter. You can see the weight is 80 grams compared to the 307 grams before. And the other really nice thing is it uses less gas, and I'll get into more of why that's really nice towards the end of my presentation. And you can just see, again, we don't use a parachute anymore. And, it does have the antenna and the unwinder and nozzle. So to prep the balloon and radio sound, here's a video of me doing that. I will mention this is sped up so that I could save on time. So to prep the balloon, you have a nozzle that gets inserted into the balloon, and then a ring goes over the neck of the balloon, and then you flip that neck up over the nozzle. So you've got the balloon prepared, and now to prepare the radio sound, you take it out of its package, and then the unwinder part actually has a piece that will snap into the back of the radio sound, and as it's doing that, it pushes that sensor to that 45-degree angle. And then you have everything set up and ready to go to load into the tray. So actually loading the carousel. First, pictures. On the right-hand side, you can see the AROS carousel itself. It has the 24 trays in it, and it rotates. On the left-hand side is a picture of myself holding the balloon. Now, people that know me know I'm extremely short. I'm under 5 feet tall. And so we had to order a special stool for me so I could stand on it so that the balloon would not touch the ground when I was loading the trays. It's pretty funny. I keep saying I'm going to decorate the stool, but we'll see. So again, here's a video. It is sped up. Oh, I don't move this fast. But you can see here, we pull out the tray, and you can see on the right-hand side is where the balloon goes. And then on the left-hand side is where the radio sonde actually sits. And so you take the balloon out of the bag, and then you kind of zigzag it lasagna in there. And then for the radio sonde, which sits on that left-hand side, it has a little slot that you put there, and then the unwinder itself goes through that nozzle, and then the nozzle hooks on to where the hydrogen can flow up into the balloon. Now, conducting an actual sounding with AROS, there are 3 ways that we can release the balloon. There's automatic, remote, and wired. There's some sites in Alaska that do the automatic one. Here at the Detroit office, we do have to do remote. And that is because we are within that 5-mile radius of the Pontiac Airport. So we still have to call the tower right before we release. And then wired, all wired means is that there's a box that gets plugged into the system, and then you press a red button. Now, when you press the red button, it doesn't automatically release the balloon. It takes a good 30 seconds, to actually release the balloon. The system automatically sends all the messages across at the specific levels. Even the archived one at the end, it'll send off automatically. That's really nice. This means that once we press that grant button, it's really hands-off for the forecast staff. They've been really enjoying not having to go out in, the single-degree weather that we've been having. They just have to watch for the alerts. So that has been nice. It did allow us to go from the 5 a.m. shifts to the 6 a.m. shifts, which I really enjoy. I'm even a morning person, but just that hour difference is, huge for me. And the editing, it's all done by the system. Now, we can edit the data, but it's not recommended unless there's an obvious error. And I have yet to hear of any of the forecasters actually having to edit the data. So it's, like I said, it's been really, really hands-off and very nice, except for the issues. But I'll get into those. So there's 2 interfaces that we will look at when we're actually doing a sounding. The first one is a web-based one, as you can see here. And you can see the carousel on the left-hand side. You've got the system on the right-hand side. Yellow for the hydrogen tanks means it's empty. So I'll have to go out and switch those. The compressed air is yellow, and I will get into why a little bit later, why that's yellow. And then the second one, when we actually are performing a sounding, is the MW41 software. And so we'll log in, and it's just kind of the same setup as what we had with the AROS system. You can see the raw data, the edited data, and the tabular data, and things like that. I will say what's nice is with this, we have it, any forecaster is able to access it on their workstation, which is really, really nice. And I did make a Google spreadsheet where at the end of the flight, forecasters can enter in all the information that will then go on the B29 forms. I'm the one that fills out all the B29 forms. So if I'm on telework, it's really easy to just pull it up and input the data right there. Instead of, we used to just write it down on paper, and I was having people, take photos of it and send it to me, and then it was kind of a mess. So just having a Google, spreadsheet has been really, really helpful. Hydrogen use. Here's where we get into the fun parts, for me at least. So hydrogen, it's stored in metal cabinets called banks. There's 3 of these banks. 2 are in use and 1 is a spare. Each bank has the capacity to store 2 hydrogen cradles. You can see what a cradle looks like on wheels at the bottom, kind of middle portion of the screen. A cradle holds 6 cylinders, and each cylinder can fill approximately 3.5 balloons. which is a lot nicer than what we were using before, which was maybe 2-3 balloons per tank. So having the lighter radiosons, of course, helps with having to use less gas, and it's nice for me because I don't have to change tanks as much. Right now, I'm changing out tanks twice a week. So, biggest issue we've had with AROS. I kind of laughed when Tom Olson wanted me to present this because I'm like, okay, how do I fit everything in 15 minutes when we've had numerous issues with this? But so what we're expecting with hydrogen is a cradle on wheels. Unfortunately, the gas company didn't read the contract properly. And when they arrived with the cradles, they weren't on wheels. And they expected us to take these cradles off their trucks, which each cradle weighs over 800 pounds. And we don't have the capacity to do that. We don't have a forklift or anything like that. So unfortunately, right now we had to go to individual hydrogen tanks. My dream is to someday have a hydrogen generator. I would love to have that. But right now I am getting a good workout, moving around hydrogen tanks. They're as tall as me, so that's been fun. But yeah, the right-hand picture is what we got. So we still have the individual hydrogen tanks. Sterling is working on a system where we can hopefully get a hose that can attach to 3 cylinders instead of just the one, like we have now. Because right now I can only reach the 2 tanks on each side. So hopefully in the future, the next couple of months, we can kind of get that sorted out. Last thing I'm going to talk about is issues encountered. Again, I could go on forever about this. Keith is probably laughing, but again, the main hurdle has been the AROS system with the hydrogen. Our other big, huge issue that we actually just got resolved last week was the compressor issue. It turned out that we think it may have been just a manufacturing issue, but the hoses in the robotics room had holes in them and leaks in places, and so that was keeping the compressor running almost all the time. And what ended up happening is the compressor was running so much that something got off balance and started vibrating really, really bad to the point where it was getting really, really warm in the robotics room, and it actually broke off of its mount. It was vibrating so much. It was an interesting sight to see. But we wanted, safety-wise, we thought, it's getting too warm in there. We can't run it. We didn't want to risk a fire, so we shut it down. You may have noticed we didn't have flights going for a couple weeks, and that was why. Also, it happened over the holidays, so trying to get Sara out here, was a challenge too. But they did finally come out last week. We got it bandaged up. The only thing now that we're waiting for, we are only running 1 compressor right now. It does have a backup. Unfortunately, that spare compressor that we're waiting on, like you've heard throughout the conference, there's been supply chain issues. And that is, one of the things that we're waiting on is the compressor. So once they get that, Sara will be back out here to completely fix up the system. So that'll be nice. Hopefully within the next couple months that'll happen. What is nice, though, is Sterling did reach out to us and tell us there was an option to have a plan B. So backup, if the system fails like it did the last few weeks, we can do manual launches with AROS, which is really nice. And we did have to do a couple days worth of manual launches. So we just fill up the balloon and everything, got the string already, like, back in the old days. And, but AROS tracks it. We release it, and then AROS, tracks the balloon. So it's really nice. Some of the forecasters had to get out in the cold again. So it was kind of fun, training them again. And, we're all trying to remember how to do stuff. It's amazing how quickly you can forget how to tie. I'm like figuring out, okay, how do I tie this again? But it was all good. But it's really, really nice to have that backup plan. We did have a few stuck balloons, and the system wasn't able to switch over between hydrogen banks at one point, but that was right when we first started. And so Sara that was an easy fix for that. But you can see kind of the pictures of the stuck balloon and me reaching in to get the SON, so I didn't have to move the carousel at all. Another reason why I like being short and small. I can get into places. And so that is all I have. One thing I do want to give a huge shout out to the Sterling Field Support Center. They have been amazing with answering all our questions and helping us through all these issues that we had. So I cannot, stress enough how grateful we are to them. So thank you. And if you have any questions, there's my email.
All right. No, thank you very much for that. I'd be remiss. So again, I asked folks for some interesting tidbits, and I didn't mention this at the beginning. But real quick, you mentioned you had some weather symbol tattoos. What symbols do you have?
I do actually on my fingers. I have vorticity, sandstorm, because those are my initials, rain, snow, thunderstorm, and tornado.
Love it. All right. So Tom's got his hand